Not every blessing that arrives in a basket of joy is meant to stay in the house. Some came to cause more tears. In the village of Umuoka, there was a season when the rains were perfect. It was during this time that Adaze was born. Her arrival was not quiet. The whole village gathered at Okeke's compound. They ate pounded yam and drank the finest palm wine, for Adaze was a child of singular beauty. The elders remarked that her skin was as smooth as a polished river stone, and her eyes held a clarity that made people feel at peace. Even the village stream, which usually ran brown during the heavy rains, turned as clear as glass the morning she took her first breath. There was no fear then, only the pride of a family who thought the heavens had smiled upon their poverty. But as Adaze grew, the smile of the heavens began to look more like a mask. By the time she was 7, her mother, Ifeoma, noticed things. Adaze would sit for hours by the water's edge, not playing with other children, but talking to the ripples. She knew songs that the village women had never taught her, melodies that sounded like the pool of the tide. Sometimes she would fall into a deep sleep and wake up with fine river sand between her toes, even though she had slept on a mat in the dry hut. She was a girl living in 2 worlds, but she owned neither. When she walked to the market, she was there in body, but her gaze was often fixed on something behind the wind. She grew to realize that her life was a borrowed garment. She had been sent by the Ogbanje spirits, permitted to enter the world of men only with the consent of the Queen Mother of the Depths. She was not her father's daughter. She was a visitor on earth. The truth broke over the family like a sudden storm. After a series of strange illnesses where Adaze would turn cold as ice and stop breathing for minutes, Okeke took his last few tubers of yam to the dibia. The old priest did not throw the bones twice. He looked at the family with eyes full of pity. Your daughter is a daughter of the water. She did not come to stay. She came to see, and she will be called back unless you cut the cord that binds her to the deep. But the price of freedom was a mountain the poor farmer could not climb. The spirits demanded a white goat without blemish, 7 yards of expensive lace, silver jewelry to replace the ones she wore in the other world, and a feast that would feed the entire village. Okeke looked at his calloused hands. He looked at his small barn. He was a man who measured wealth in seeds, not silver. He tried. He walked until his back bent like a bow. He borrowed from kinsmen. But every time he neared the amount needed, a crop would fail or a goat would die. It was as if the water was seeping from his life, keeping him just poor enough to fail. The community, once so full of joy at her birth, began to pull away. They saw the rented life she carried and feared that the death might spill over onto them. As we wait for the sun to set on Adaze's story, if the wisdom of our fathers and the tales of the ancient ones stir your soul, do not let the fire go out. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next story. Then came the time for marriage. Despite the whispers, a young man named Obina fell in love with her. Villagers warned him of whom she was, but sometimes love can be desperate. He was a strong man, a wrestler with a heart as soft as a cooked yam. He said he did not care about spirit husbands or water debts. He married her with high hopes. The joy lasted only 1 moon. In the dark of the night, the spirit husband from the water began to visit Obina. These were not dreams, they were battles. Obina would wake up bruised, his throat dry as ash. In these visions, a figure shimmering like moonlight over a lake gave him a choice. Leave my wife or lose your life and everything your hands have built. Obina was stubborn. He loved Adaze. But then, the disasters moved from his dreams into his fields. His yams rotted in the ground during the dry season, a thing unheard of. His healthy goats dropped dead for no reason. People avoided his house as if a red cloth had been tied to his gate. One evening, Adaze sat him down. Her voice was calm, too calm for a woman watching her life crumble. She told him who she was. She told him about the marine world, about the Queen Mother and the husband who waited for her under the depth of the ocean. I am a daughter of the humans by mistake and a daughter of the water by blood. Ubina cried that night, but when he woke up to find his ancestral barn on fire, the love was replaced by a cold, hollow terror. The marriage ended. Ubina sent Adaze back to her father's house. The village no longer whispered. They were silent when she passed. Silence is louder than noise. A second marriage was attempted a year later with a man from a distant village who thought he was stronger than the old stories. It lasted only 2 weeks. The spirit husband did not even bother to fight him in dreams. He simply took the man's side until he sent Adaze back. Her family realized that the escape they had prayed for was an illusion. They were too poor to buy her soul back, and the spirits were too patient to negotiate. One afternoon, when the sun was high and the air was still, Adaze stood up from her mat. She did not say goodbye. She did not pack a bag. Her mother watched her from the kitchen hut, but did not call out. What was there to say to a guest who had stayed as long as they could? Adaze walked toward the village stream. She didn't run. She didn't cry. There was no lightning, no thunder, no dramatic upheaval of the earth. She simply stepped into the water. The villagers said that the water did not even splash. It opened like a piece of silk and closed behind her. By the time Umuoka reached the riverbank, the surface was as still as a mirror. There were no footprints in the mud. There was no struggle. There was only the silence of the forest and the clear, cool flow of the stream. The village eventually returned to its rhythm. People got married, children were born, yams were harvested. But Umuoka's house remained quiet. The water had not taken their daughter in anger. It had simply reclaimed what was never truly given. The river remained calm, flowing as it always had, carrying the secret of the girl who was born to be celebrated but was never meant to be owned. Every visitor who arrives with a smile is a guest who intends to stay. Adaze's story teaches us that beauty is not always a sign of a blessing, and celebration is not a guarantee of ownership. And that brings us to the end of our journey today. I want to say a huge thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you found this story interesting, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Your support means the world to me and helps this channel grow every day. I'm curious, what was your favorite part of this story? Let me know below. Until next time, take care of yourself and have a wonderful day.